Everyone wants to be first to the next big thing in bourbon, just as they do in music, fashion, and technology. Fortunately, a drink that takes years to become popular offers us plenty of time to prepare. It's been described as a gradual burn. What will be the year's hottest and most exciting whiskeys of 2022? Which new releases have the potential to become collectibles? Who should whiskey connoisseurs keep an eye on? We provide our best guesses as to which distilleries will make big changes in 2022. Green River Distilling Company. O.Z. Tyler was the initial name of this Western Kentucky distillery, which opened in 2016. Some of its private client goods use TerraPure, a soundwave-based finishing technology that smooths out the rough edges in young whiskey, which has been received with suspicion by whiskey lovers. Early releases like Lahorse and Bradshaw Bourbon, which are only 2 to 3 years old and already show tremendous promise, bode well for the future, as does a recent rebranding of the distillery that resurrected the historic Green River name and reassurance that its own whiskeys use only traditional maturation. We won't have to wait long to try older bourbon. The first Green River bourbon, aged over 5 years, will be released in February of 2022. Wilderness Trail. Shane Baker and Pat Heist, co-founders of Wilderness Trail, owe much of their success to their unrivaled expertise, which they gained through fixing problems at other distilleries through their first company, Firm Solutions. Wilderness Trail's bourbons and ryes are already popular among whiskey connoisseurs, and they're set to get even more popular when they reach older ages in 2022, 6 years for the rye and 8 years for both wheat and rye bourbons. A packaging change is also in the works, which might increase the value of previous releases on the secondary market, particularly private selections and single barrels. Lux Row. Lux Row is a relative newbie in terms of production. The distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky started 4 years ago this month, but its array of labels all have much older roots. Consider Ezra Brooks, Rebel, previously Rebel Yell, Blood Oath, and Yellowstone's 50-50 collaboration with Limestone Branch. Lux Row has a lot to show now that the first of its own distillates has reached maturity. Because its parent firm, Luxco, was acquired by mega supplier MGP last year, it has lots of resources and a major expansion to help with that. Lux Row will, however, benefit from its new ownership as well. MGP's own whiskeys, such as George Remus and Rossville Union, will benefit from the more established brand's extensive distribution network. Frye Ranch. Straight bourbon and rye from this grain-to-glass distillery appeared out of nowhere in recent years, enthralling whiskey aficionados who were fortunate enough to get their hands on a bottle, especially one of the Flavor Bomb single barrels. Until recently, doing so necessitated a trip to Nevada, as the Frye Ranch could only offer mature whiskey in its native state. That's changing as more of its whiskeys mature, with Speakeasy already shipping to over 30 states and plans to produce some genuinely unusual products in the future, according to fifth-generation farmer and distillery co-founder Colby Frye. Anyone for a malted 4-grain bourbon? George Dickel. Since Nicole Austin took over as head distiller in 2018, this staid Tennessee distillery has been on a roll, releasing a flurry of new whiskeys to near universal acclaim. The surprisingly affordable, usually well-aged bottled in bond, 15-year-old single barrel, 8-year-old bourbon, not to be confused with Tennessee whiskey, and the ever-changing Cascade Moon series. The George Dickel x Leopold Brothers collaboration blend rye is a blend of Dickel's unreleased rye and Leopold's historic 3 chamber rye, thanks to Austin's history in artisan distillation and passion for quirky experimentation. This year, expect more inventive and delicious dishes. Subscribe to hear more news from around the bourbon world, brought to you by the Bourbon Explorer.